All right, so it's just me this week. Everybody's out, and this will probably be a short one, but I really wanted to talk about Atlas on Netflix, which is behind me, starring Jennifer Lopez. I'll talk a little bit about Jurassic World Chaos Theory also. That came out this week, and that is the continuation of the Jurassic World animated series on Netflix. And I watched that with my kids, so I'll talk about that too. But starting with Atlas, it is a Netflix sci-fi show starring Jennifer Lopez. Takes place in the far future, at least some point in the future. I think it's indeterminate in the film, and I mean, the gist of it is this is another kind of mediocre sci-fi movie where I feel Apple TV is really killing it in sci-fi. Netflix is not. They did Rebel Moon, both of those. Actually, if you look at the ratings, and I'll throw them up, but if you look at the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, it's about the same as Atlas. And I think for different reasons. For me, the Rebel Moon films came in advertised as these huge epics and sweeping stories, and they were going to be, a Star Wars competitor or something along those lines. And I don't think they ever quite lived up to that hype or were ever quite as good as, advertised. I think the Rebel Moon movies would have been okay if they were one movie and shorter. They just needed to be edited a lot, and they could have been better. I I've already talked about those on here. I didn't love them a lot, but Atlas, I'm kind of the opposite on. Not that it's a great movie. I don't for me, I don't think it's good or bad. I think the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is a 50 something, and I think that's fair. Like it literally for me is like a 50-50 movie. On the one hand, the story itself is so like predictable and just one of those stories that's been told, 1,000 times over. I think if you look at this movie and some of the 90s sci-fi movies, something like Universal Soldier, which is not the same, but the idea is that it's got a story that kind of works and but it even more so, it's just got a pretty decent amount of action. And that's kind of what makes it a fun movie to watch. And for me, Atlas was relatively fun to watch, and that's kind of all I needed from it. The story wasn't brilliant. It wasn't a new idea. Like I said, it just was kind of there. For me, the acting was over the top in places. I do think Jennifer Lopez got it right in a few places, but I think she was a little early on in the film. She was a little melodramatic. I think when she was playing injured, I actually think she did a really good job. And I've always liked Jennifer Lopez as an actress. I'm personally not a fan of her music. That doesn't mean it's not good, just means that's not my jam. But I think as an actress, I really have always kind of liked her work. So, in this, she was okay. Sterling K. Brown is in this, a total waste of Sterling K. Brown. They could have cast anybody in the part and it would have been just fine. He did not get anywhere near enough screen time for his character to be impactful in any way, and it was just kind of a waste. I would have rather seen him eat up a lot more screen time. Funny enough, the best character in this is the AI, which has a very robotic voice, and it's named Smith. But I thought Smith was easily the best part of the movie.
Shit.
You're in my head, and the only thing you learn how to do is curse?
I'm an adaptive learner.
So, let me dive into it. If you haven't watched it, you can skip to the Jurassic World stuff if you want to, but I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but I'm going to break it down a little bit here and probably spoil some stuff. So, we open up on this movie and we find out that there's been kind of an android uprising. We don't know when this is. We know that androids effectively look like human beings. It looks like anything that's robotic or AI powered or anything like that, it has kind of turned on humanity. In one scene, it shows like a factory, like car building machine attacking people and things like that. So it's very, anti-human as far as the AI piece goes. And then the lead AI is played by Simu Liu, who was in Shang-Chi or is Shang-Chi in the MCU. And, he's solid too. His part, again, like for what he is to the movie, I don't think he gets enough screen time either. This is really a Jennifer Lopez, joint, and I think that's fine. But I think, like I said, Smith steals the show. I think Simu could have used a little more screen time. I think Sterling K. Brown could have used a lot more screen time, and it would have been a better film for it. But anyways, so there's this AI uprising, and the world governments come together and form a new um, kind of all encompassing Earth military called ICN. And they fight off the AI. And Simu character, Harlan, escapes with some of the other AI and leaves the planet. What that means or where they go, it doesn't really say. Nobody knows. And so, things kind of get back to normal. And then we come to find out, later on or in a little bit that Jennifer Lopez, her character's mom, invented Harlan and was an AI kind of genius and made these characters, no, sorry, made these um, AI robots, as smart as they were. And something happened, and either she's at fault or something along those lines as to what caused the AI uprising. And as goes with these movies, for whatever reason, Jennifer Lopez just happens to be incredibly talented at the same thing her mom did. So when there's another AI terrorist attack by a character named Casca, who was an associate of Harlan, another AI, they capture him and they call her in to come look and do some work on, his what it amounts to his head. They removed his head. That's where all the programming is. And she basically interrogates him to find out where Harlan is. Now, why she's so great at this stuff because her mom was so great at it, they don't really say. It's just she's great at it. Cool. Like she's a brilliant AI analyst. And this is one of those things too. It's kind of like the Jack Ryan thing where she's not a soldier, she's an analyst, but she's going to go in and do, this military mission stuff and all that. So in that regard, it's cliched again. You've got somebody that has no business being there with no real military training that's going to go into a military situation and ultimately save the day, right? And so that's a little cheesy. But in her interrogation of Casca, played by an actor named Abraham Bola, who I haven't heard of, but he was relatively charismatic. Again, he had just not enough screen time like anybody else. But she manages to find the location of Harlan when she interviews or when she interrogates him. Now, what bothered me a lot about this, and I know it's my science brain, it's not going to bother everybody else, but they said he was on a planet in the Andromeda galaxy. And if you know anything about science, the Andromeda galaxy is 2.5 million light years away. So let's say we could travel at the speed of light. It would take us 2.5 million years to get there. To make that reasonable and for them to get there almost instantly, like they do in the movie, the speed you would have to travel is just stupid. Now, if you take our own, see, the Milky Way galaxy, there's solar systems that are 4 to 5 light years away. That means it would take you 4 hours at the speed of light to get there. So, if you wrap your mind around some concept of warp that lets you go faster than the speed of light, then it seems like you could reasonably get there pretty quick. If we're that far. Now, how far along, again, it doesn't really tell us. Nothing looks so advanced that it looks beyond what our world is now. Like it looks further along, but to advance far enough that we are able to travel to other galaxies, to me is like just preposterous. So, anyways, there's a lot of complaining there, but it's just I know it's a sci-fi show. I know it's not realistic. I know um that you've got to suspend disbelief a lot, but for me that's a huge suspension. Going between galaxies is is stupid far. And granted they chose the closest one to us in Andromeda, but it's 2.5 million light years away. It's not feasible. Anyways, I'm get off my horse there. So they make the trek to the Andromeda galaxy, to this planet that's in the Andromeda galaxy. of course, after they show up in their military ship with a bunch of soldiers, Sterling K. Brown's in charge. They brought Jennifer Lopez's character. I should get her name right. It is Atlas, duh, the name of the movie. And Sterling K. Sterling K. Brown is Colonel Elias Banks. He's in charge of this mission. He brings a ship full of soldiers. They all have these exosuits that are armored and super strong. And they get there, and of course, Harlan was ready for them, whether he knew exactly that they were coming or whatever, and just blows their ship out of the sky. They only brought one ship with one battalion of people, and they get shot out of the sky. Uh, they throw Jennifer Lopez into a suit that she's not, trained in. She falls to the earth and survives. And so, she wakes up, the AI turns on, and it's trying to get her to sync with it. So what they do is they put this thing on kind of over the back of their ear. And if you sync with the AI, you effectively connect your brain. It's like something like what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink now, where your brain would connect to the computer and the computer can connect to your brain, and you would, pass information back and forth, making you more effective as a soldier. Now, she refuses to do this, and they won't say why, but she doesn't trust AI.
I don't need your help. I don't trust any AI.
So she refuses to make this sync. She does her best to work with the suit. She gets back on her feet. She says, let's fly up and move forward and go on. And, the suit is like, no, that would be stupid. If we get up in the air, we'll get shot down by Harlan's military or whatever it is he's got. So they walk, and they ultimately get to this field where all of the other soldiers landed, literally like all of the soldiers, and they're all dead. They didn't die on impact. So, like, keeping with what keeps the story, grounded or whatever, everybody survived the fall. So her surviving the fall isn't like a 1 in a million chance. These suits are designed really strong. They should have survived the landing. But as she starts to look at the different exosuits and what's gone on, there's bullet holes through the glass. They've all been shot and killed after they landed. Now, that's fine. Okay, let's say that these bad androids can shoot through these exosuits. Cool, hold on to that. Now, they go and find that one is missing a pilot, and that pilot, of course, somehow is Colonel Elias Banks, Sterling K. Brown. So the one person that was more important than her, that was like important that we've met, managed to survive somehow. He's not in the suit. We can't find him. While she's looking around, she goes around to collect all the dog tags of the soldiers that died, because that's what you do. I mean, she's not a soldier, but if at least if you watched enough war movies, people like to collect um their dog tags for the people that that they've lost. So she collects these dog tags, and she continues or no, I'm sorry. After she while she's collecting the dog tags, all these other AI soldiers, or android soldiers show up, and they start shooting at her. And one thing that kills me, again in sci-fi, and I know I'm being a big baby, so deal with me here, but um is when these things that are super intelligent, that are computer programmed, that have targeting in their heads, can't seem to hit what they're shooting at. I get it in Star Wars when it's stormtroopers. They're clone troopers. They should be good. They should have been trained their whole lives to shoot, whatever, but something's moving that makes it more complicated, whatever. If you are a computer that is making a bazillion calculations a second, trying, targeting whatever, they should not be missing. So, number one, they're missing her. Somehow they didn't miss an entire battalion of these things and killed everybody in it, but she's running away. They're missing her. Okay, whatever. So she keeps running away. They gather around her. She says, I'm going to set off this. I think they called it an ion bomb. And the suit Smith says, you really shouldn't do that. And she's like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do it. She lets off this ion bomb. The earth collapses under her, and she falls into this big hole in the ground. Now, what is kind of lame about falling into this hole in the ground, they've already established that the suit has rockets. So as the ground started to fall, why didn't she just fly away? Who knows? They've also established that the one android that somehow survived this ion blast that's there also has a rocket pack on his back, but he falls down too. So it's kind of lame in that regard. But again, hold up, suspend your disbelief, whatever. So she falls into this thing. She's kind of stuck. The suit's trying to get her, um, you know, back up and going. She hurts her leg in the process. It patches her up, which is very painful. Like I said earlier, the scenes where she's in pain when she's going through this, I actually thought she acted really well. And so during this, the the AI, the suit, Smith, really does a good job convincing her that, they need to connect. That they need to do a better job making this sync so that they can work together better. So they start to sync, they're struggling through it. Um, you know, they're they're getting there like 70%, 80%, something like that. So they start to put together this plan. She jumps out of the hole into a tunnel that they think is a secret tunnel. They get to this base that I forget what the reason was, but the reason isn't to attack. I think it's just to gather information so that she can escape on a pod that was still left there and get back to somewhere. I don't know if she gets back to the pod, how she's supposed to get home. If a pod can travel 2.5 million light years, I don't know. But the pod is supposed to be what gets her out of there. So she gets there and Smith gets attacked. And rather than being shot and attacked, Smith gets hacked by the AI because, of course, this super genius AI should be able to hack other computers that aren't as technologically brilliant as them. Now, in the story, it seems like Smith is newer than Harlan, but Harlan has also been absorbing, intelligence, things like that. So, him being able to hack into Smith is fine for me. Like I expected that at some point, and so they get her out, and then it turns out that Harlan set this all up. He knew that if he sent Casca, the guy we saw in the beginning, that that she interrogated and got information out of, he knew that that guy would give up the location, that somehow she would be the only person they could possibly send to try and stop him, so she would have to come. And what he needs from her is some codes that are in her head. She helped design this Earth defense system that's literally like a shield around the Earth. So his whole plan is to come back, and basically do a Thanos. He wants to wipe out all of or most of humanity, kind of subjugate humanity and get them in line because, you know, going by like old AI rules, he sees that the worst thing for humans is humans, and he wants to get that population under control. Again, like I said in the beginning, story ideas that have been used 1,000 times. We saw it with Thanos. We saw it, in all these other things. So, he is trying to get that code out of her head. We find out he got one of the other codes out of Sterling K. Brown's character's head. They, for whatever reason, they just interrogate their people out in the open. So they've got Sterling K. Brown on a bed that is, he's still alive and he's got an oxygen tank, which is really weird because it doesn't cover his face, but somehow he can breathe. I don't know. She has one also, and hers is running low. And they interrogate, or they've already interrogated Sterling K. Brown, got what they needed from him. They interrogate Atlas, they get what they need from her, and they leave. And they leave them both on these beds. Now, granted, they're strapped down, but you know, Sterling K. Brown's character says, "Here, take my controller thing." I don't remember how he gets it to her, but he gets his, earpiece thing to her and says, "Call Smith." And she's like, "I can't call Smith. We're not." And he's like, "You can if you're synchronized." And she's like, "Well, we're not synchronized." And so we start to get them to synchronize. Like she has to open up. She has to do a better job of letting Smith in on her end. And what we come to find out is that she made choices as a child, right? It's not her fault, but as a child that led to Harlan becoming what Harlan is. So Harlan was created by her mom, and he was an AI robot that helped run the house. That was almost like a nanny. She felt like her mom loved Harlan more than her, because she spent so much time working on Harlan. And so Harlan knew that there was only so much that he could do as an AI. And so he tells her that if she puts in the earpiece and basically allows him, says something, gives some kind of command that will allow them to cross sync in with her with Harlan, then he can be more, that he can be better. And she, for whatever reason, as a kid, she loves this idea. She puts the thing on, they sync up their brain. He kind of learns about the whole of humanity through the sync with this child's brain, who apparently knows everything that's ever happened on Earth. And that's when he decides that humanity is totally boned and he's got to, um, save the day. And so he's responsible, or she sees herself as responsible for waking him up in that regard. And then he also kills her mom. And then again, he sends one of the other AI robots after her in that opening scene. She's a little girl running away, and somehow this thing cannot shoot her. And it just nonsense to me. If you're a machine, you should probably be able to target pretty friggin' well, especially just a little girl running away. But anyways, we jump back to the past. She lets Smith in. They connect.
This is what it feels like to be you.
This is what it feels like to be us.
Smith comes running in, helps her escape, and of course, in that process, Sterling K. Brown says, I'm a mess. I'm not going to get out of here. Just take most of my oxygen. I'll help you escape." They uh, kind of make Smith 2.0. There's a bunch of stuff lying around because, of course, there is in this room where they interrogate people, and upgrade Smith to, like I said, Smith 2.0. Like, he's stronger, more badass. He jumps out of this tunnel with her now inside, and just messes up a whole swath of these AI android murder machines that took out an entire battalion, but her by herself messes them all up. The one person, of course, that's not there is Harlan. So we get to what becomes our final battle. They face off when she's trying to get to the pod. Harlan is there. He has this whole bad guy speech about how, you know, he's gonna get what he needs from her, and then he's gonna kill her. Y- Kind of all the stuff Thanos said at the end of in Endgame. He thought he was going to do it this way. She got in the way. Now he's going to do it this other way because he's super pissed. And they fight and they fight. And of course, she wins. And of course, uh, Smith has to, die in the process. And somehow along the way, and I forget what happens, but back on Earth, they realize that nobody's checked in, so they send another fleet to help out, which of course gets there after this final battle and right after this final battle, so they come save her. And she has a big emotional moment with Smith where she's like, "Oh, we finally connected. You're my family." Blah blah blah. And he says, "Well, for you to live, I have to shut down, so you can take my oxygen." And it's this whole thing about how he has to die. And in my head, I'm like, he's a friggin' computer. It doesn't matter if he shuts all the way down. All that shit's stored in his hard drive, but they totally play it off like he's dead. We end up back on Earth. She's okay. She comes out of her apartment, and all of a sudden she's a full-fledged ranger. So uh, I guess going on this mission as an analyst, just like Jack Ryan, just like this other things, she is now a full-fledged soldier, and she's working on creating these suits of armor like Smith. They put her in the suit, a new one, like a new Smith 2.0, fire it up, and it first starts off with a very Siri-like voice that says, what do you want to let us sync, blah, blah, blah. And it says you can choose your voice. And so she chooses the Smith voice. And then, oh my God, shock and surprise, it's actually Smith, and everything, we get our happy ending or whatever. Um, and like, that's it. And there's just things that are left out there. Like one thing that I don't understand how at the end they're just okay. Like they think they won the battle because Harlan ran away. Harlan is a frigging AI. Just because they killed one body doesn't mean he can't be on like 58 different planets, right? Like there's a million ways this guy could be doing whatever he's doing, and they just kind of gloss over all of this technical stuff to make the story work, but it kind of doesn't, you know? But I will say the action in it is solid, even though a lot of it's not believable. It's fun. Um, like I said, the Smith is great. The dialogue between her and Smith works well enough, even though it's cheesy. And I didn't hate it. I really think like for the entertainment factor, for the fun factor of it, it really is like a 5 or a 6 to me, so it sits on that, cusp of what Rotten Tomatoes fans say. The critics put it at, like, 17% right now. Like, they just hate it, and for me, I'm like, "What film were you expecting? This is not going to be an Oscar winner, it's not gonna be for everybody, but you have to look at it through the lens of who it's for." This is an entertaining, streaming sci-fi action film that is going to very clearly go from point A to point B to point C. It's not going to surprise you. It's not going to do anything new. It's not reinventing the wheel. And it just comes to an end. For reasons that I said, they could do an Atlas too. It is number one on Netflix right now, granted in 2 or 3 days. It could get a sequel. They could easily do a sequel because you can bring literally anybody back. The only human being that died was Sterling K. Brown, so all of the other human being characters could be out there. The androids, that Casca guy that I talked about early, when she lands on the planet, there's another one of him there. So uh, there's multiple bodies for all these androids, so there's no reason that there couldn't be another body for Harlan. So, there could be a sequel. I would watch it if it came out. I don't think it would be great, but I don't think it would be bad. Like you just, for me, you have to go in knowing what you're watching and, you know, just enjoy it. It's fun. It's not awesome. It's not brilliant. It's not Oppenheimer, it's just, it's fun. So, I mean, if you enjoy sci-fi action films, something like Edge of Tomorrow is a little smarter than that, but in a lot of ways, it's the same. It's the same level of action, same, kind of driving forces and things. And if you liked Edge of Tomorrow, this is not as smart as Edge of Tomorrow, but I don't think you would hate it if that's your kind of sci-fi movie. So I would say, if you're just looking for something entertaining, if you don't hate Jennifer Lopez, if you don't mind really not seeing anybody else very often in this movie, then go ahead and give it a shot. It's entertaining. Like I said, it's number one on Netflix, so it's doing all right. And if you watch it, let me know what you think because I thought it was fun. So the only other thing I really watched this week that I can talk about is the Jurassic World Chaos Theory, which is an animated series on Netflix that is a sequel to their original Jurassic World animated series that lasted several seasons, with all the same characters. In that original series, these kids went to Jurassic World on this kind of camping trip for smart kids or whatever. And they got left on the island when the events of the first Jurassic World happened. So when everybody got evacuated from the island in the first Jurassic World movie, these kids got left behind. They managed to survive for an entire year. They went through a bunch of drama in season one or season two. They kind of imply that one of the characters might have died, like it's super impactful. They bring him back, but not in a totally corny way, even though you kind of assume he couldn't be dead. So I mean, that one is a relatively kid-friendly show. It's not bad, it's not, brilliant or anything, but it's good. The kid actors were good. The series, had twists and turns, and it was really fun and all that. And then it came to an end. They got off the island, and that could have been the end. Like they thought about just doing that. Well, they brought it back for Jurassic World Chaos Theory, which is now these kids. I don't remember the exact leap, but it's several years later. So now they're late teens, early 20s. Like they're relatively grown up, uh, which is good because they kept the voice actors, but now they can sound like adults instead of kids and still be the same actors. And this one I don't want to spoil. I think it's more fun to watch. There's 10 episodes. They're 20 to 25 minutes long each. It's runs like an animated series. Me and my kids watched it in 2 days, but this one is certainly more adult. So the plot of it essentially is that one of the kids, uh, they she dies in the beginning. She gets attacked by a dinosaur and dies, and they start to uncover that this is some kind of larger plot against the 5 or 6 of them personally. And so it's this whole big adventure of a first season. There has to be a second season. The way that it ends, it does not end in a place where they could just stop. So it doesn't. It's not quite a cliffhanger, but there's more story to tell. So, um, but the whole gist of it is they are going down, trying to figure out, um, what's happening, who's doing this or whatever. There are deaths and significant deaths and, just barely off camera deaths in this one that did not happen in the other one. Like if anybody died in the other one, it was kind of in the distance. You didn't know. Maybe they just got left behind, something like that. In this one, for sure, like people die, like like I said, not quite right in front of you, but close enough that you understand what's happening. And I think this is a more adult show. Like there's still a lot of kids stuff going on. They're still young. There's still relationships. At the end of the original animated series, they set up a lesbian relationship between these two teenage girls that carried over into this one. They stayed together. Um, and it's fine. Like um, it's not over the top. Like it's not the purpose of the show, right? So for anybody that's, anti woke or whatever dumb crap, whatever, it's just that's who they are, and it just works. They just move on. But there's other relationship drama in this that there wouldn't have worked in the other one because they were as young as they were. In the first one, these two girls kind of just found out they liked each other, and they didn't really develop that. And this one, they're down the line. They've gone to college. Um, they're still together but working on a long distance relationship. They're doing all this stuff. And then you have the character that dies in the meeting. Her name is Brooklyn. Everybody's trying to figure out what happened to her. Well, at the end of the original show, her and this character Kenji kind of coupled up and whatever. As this one goes along, you start to find out that they broke up, and she's actually been closer with Darius, who's one of the other kids, a lot. And it just, again, it's another piece of story that is older than the story they told in the first one. I think if you if you love that Jurassic universe, right? Because I think that's what it is now. You have Jurassic Park, you have Jurassic World, and then you have these animated films. There's a new film coming out next year, I believe, that's going to start a whole new set of stories. But the nice thing about the original animated series and then this one is that it fits perfectly into the timeline. The things that happen because of things that happened in the movies. And so when you have Jurassic World 1, when everybody gets evacuated, that's when they get stuck there. Jurassic World 2, when the island's exploding, that comes into play in the show in later seasons, the original show in later seasons. So, it really is part of this lore. It's not just some side story that they kind of made up and it didn't fit. It really is a legitimate Jurassic Park world, whatever story. And I think it's good. Again, it's a little kiddish, especially the first one. I feel like, almost like talking about Clone Wars with Star Wars, where it started off really kiddish, but not bad, but it's a little harder to get into. This one is definitely more adult, but still, teenish. But at the same time, like I said, it's more adult. You've got deaths, you've got relationships, you've got all this stuff, and some pretty decent twists and turns that lead it towards, what's coming next. I don't know when the next season will come out, but if I recall, the original series came out relatively quick. Like, I don't think we'll wait an entire year for season two. So if the Jurassic universe is your jam, then I would say go give it a watch, especially if you watched the original animated series and enjoyed that. It was really good. So that's all I've got. Andrew should be back next week. I definitely want to talk about Dune 2. I want to finish a couple other things that I've been watching and talk about those. So we'll see where we get there. But yeah, we've definitely got stuff, lined up. Like I said, Andrew should be back. Lauren may even be back next week, and we should have a more robust conversation. This was just me kind of ranting about sci-fi, but like I said, I enjoyed both things that I watched this week, so I can't really complain. I definitely recommend both. Again, depending on your level of sci-fi enjoyment and Jurassic enjoyment, but if those things are interesting to you, then go watch these. But with that, I will say thank you for watching. If you're listening, thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.